Alright, so defense of CLG is set up here, and it is going to be tank heavy once more, Hex. This is pretty much what we saw CLG run all weekend long. Meanwhile, you take a look at the offense, just a little bit of Hanzo in the beginning, but quickly swapped off to Soldier.
And what they like to do in the offense here is try to get their flankers and DPS into interesting positions. That's why you see Sinatra already up here. He's going to contest a Genji up top. They would like to get Defran in that position too. Defran likes to sneak around and take high grounds as well. So if they can get him up in the window where Sinatra is, they're going to be in good position. Hydration falls, but Sinatra gets hooked out too.
Surgical from Defran early on, finds hydration, and now has the high ground to himself, so he's gonna have a great vantage point here as he moves in at CLG and just easily takes down Shake from behind. Defran might as well be invisible right now with how he's going about this.
If I notice that that's where Defran wants to go, they have to know that that's where he wants to go. He does it every single map, offense or defense on King's Row. He owns a stake in the real estate property that is the window up there and just gets up there. Nice charge early on from Kresnik, sets that up for them, and take first point with ease.
It was effortless from Defran. Now, that said, he's going to be swapping things up here, and whoa, we got Orisa in play, and of course she did get buffed recently. She has, since the weekend, her shield can be up almost 50% more often with the cooldown change. She lost a little bit of damage for it, and oh no, Bastion coming into play. Alright.
They just bubbled him on the cart. They got shields all around him. Earth Shatter will come down and knock a few, but it does not get Bastion on the cart now. He's boosted, trying to get some damage done. Shake falls in this fight, and I think maybe the surprise factor at the very least has thrown them off as they will clean up. Defran falls, but late in that, Bastion's still alive.
There's a lot of chain guns in play here for Selfless, where you have the Orisa chain gun, the Bastion chain gun. Alright, well, this is new.
It's not and quite now protect the president, so because there's too many shields, someone has to come up with something clever for this. I don't know if it's beneath the dome or whatever, but there's completely going on this Bastion strat, and I love it.
Protect the president with less Secret Service money. I don't know. Either way, Hydration gonna have a Dragon Blade up for this next fight, and we'll see if it can cut through what is certainly a new look coming out here from Selfless, for better or for worse. Holding on to Dragon Blade. Here comes the Graviton, and no, the Graviton is eaten. The Graviton devoured early on here, so that's not gonna work, as Selfless now, tank mode in play. Sinatra dying to the back, but gets charged! Blown up into a million pieces, and CLG might hold this after all.
It was a very nice charge, and he was discorded as well, so he's not going to live through that. The sound barrier was already fading, and they countered with their own sound barrier too, so really nice patience on the side of the defense to hold on to that fight. Even though the grab went down, here comes a very late Orisa ultimate, trying to bring this back. The damage boost, not enough though.
He's probably swapping off the Orisa. I think this is a case where they figured they'd go for this for a little bit. They got through a decent amount of second, but yeah, Defran's going back to Soldiers, so why not throw the Supercharger down and pray for some form of good result? In any case, Selfless get reset here. The randomness has perhaps subsided, but wasn't terrible.
Well, the downside of the reset, of course, is that you're always going to be behind an ult economy now, and maybe that doesn't concern a team like Selfless, which kind of just always wants a fight, but they only have the boost up for this next fight. Well, they're going to be having to push into Miso's Graviton, most importantly.
Well, this time Miso, of course, going to be looking to not throw this Graviton away. Graviton should be up here in a moment, and CLG, they drop the Graviton, and this time it connects. Pulls in 3 members of Selfless, and they are right there with the follow-through.
A very nice play there. They will get another kill, so this defense will be holding. Doc is going to try to get out without being staggered. That's all they're trying to do right now is retreat. Emong unable to do so. And it's going to take another fight or two just to even equalize the economy, but Sinatra can win a fight all by himself with a pulse bomb.
You certainly can, although I will say for Selfless, they came out with sort of the off-the-meta strat, or who knows, maybe it's full meta. Let's give it time to develop, new patch, all that, but they do seem to be stalled out here, and now you look at what CLG is working with. They have 4 ultimates in reserve. There's a lot of ways that CLG can win this next fight and bring it down to a final minute here for second as they move in. Eye Shiny aggressively charging in. Earth Shatter at the ready. Does not find a chance to drop it here just yet, but finally drops it right in the Kresnik shield, gets nothing. So for all those shields, or ultimates up for CLG, Selfless has handled this pretty well, and now's an opportunity to bring this right back.
An early Pulse Bomb came in and forced out the Transcend, so they wanted to get aggressive on it, but no one was able to catch up with them. It was a nice retreat from the offense there. Then they forced the Sound Barrier out. They used everything. All these support ults got nothing for it.
Still a bit of a grind here. CLG was able to disengage out of that. They haven't lost this fight here just yet. Emong struggling to get a kill. Finally finds Mikado, but not going to get as much as he wants from the front. Still, Hydration in the back gets picked, and with 2 extra kills here from Selfless, now they have the opportunity they need to punch us in, get second, and give themselves some desperately needed time.
Yeah, full-on cleanup here as Defran will run in with the tactical visor. Takes down Shake, maybe not needed, but they want to make sure they get that second point, move your spawns up, get yourself in position to push for last. They have a little under 3 minutes to do so.
My ultimate is charging.
Selfless, 2 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. CLG, though, with the tools needed to reestablish, they're about to have a Transcendence up and a Graviton, so, again, all eyes here on Miso as he looks to set this up. iShiny's been relatively aggressive in his position as Ryan here, too, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Miso just lob this one in just for a bit of space, and there it is. The Graviton comes in, 3 people together, and CLG dives effortlessly into that blob of Selfless.
Yeah, nice blade on the cleanup. Haven't seen too many Graviton blade cleanups in North America recently, but it's still very good. Giant clump of meat, get out the Ginsu sword, and really wipe it up. Interesting switch that happened prior to that fight. Waffle has gone on to the McCree. He's probably run it the most so far in this tournament. Oftentimes you see a McCree on offense to close out Kings Row. He's going to play it defensively here.
Waffle was very attached to the McCree in general over the weekend, so it's not really surprised to see him bring it out here again, especially when arguably his worth is much higher now than it was. iShiny holding on to the Shatter, waiting for the opportunity, and Kresnik gonna fall here, which opens up Shiny for a great Earth Shatter opportunity. Doesn't even need to use it though, because everyone is falling anyways, as everyone takes a trip into the pit.
We had a Boostio somewhere in there as well, as Doc ended up with the nano boost on him, looked a little bit confused by it, not sure what the actual target was. Hey, maybe it was Lucio. Lucio is a little bit more aggressive now, still not necessarily the main target you're going to see. So, Waffle does switch late here. I'm not sure what really wanted him to get off the McCree there, but he's going to go to a 76 instead of the next dive incoming.
Next dive is incoming right now. iShiny's still holding on to the Earth Shatter, and he drops it. It connects on 3, and CLG going to be right there with the fall through. Hydration cutting through, and though Selfless is able to pick up 2 off the back of Defran there, and Sinatra. This is still pretty rough here for Selfless.
They're going for it.
Actually, the flankers, they're able to bring this back. That was incredible from both Sinatra and Defran to bring that back in what was looking like a lost fight. That was a great Earth Shatter, and yet Selfless able to survive, and now they can put pressure right back onto CLG, where CLG, they were in a great position to just end this, but one more final attempt to defend this.
The story of most of these fights has been Miso, and he is nearing the Graviton yet again. They have won every fight that he has hit one in. They lose the fights that he throws it away. So it's going to be on to Miso now to try to get this grab and to not toss it away. He only gets a Winston. The Diva ends up in there as well. Anti-heals up on the cart, and they will finish, well, one of those kills.
Defran, 3 kills into the back. His Genji coming alive towards the end of this match. Miso, one of the last few people alive here on the payload, going to fall. iShiny shall fall as well. The Dragon Blade out for Defran, and this is all but cleanup here from Selfless, where time has run out for them, but they're in a great position to finish this out, and they do.
So the most important question, obviously, to go to our analysts, and we'll start here with Slasher. What was that strat after first? I mean, the Orisa, the Bastion. What's that?
You know what? I actually gotta say that before we were on there, Flame did mention to me on Gibraltar. He was like, you know what? I think it'd be really cool to put Torb and Orisa on the cart. And it's pretty similar. You know what? If Sinatra doesn't die in tank mode in the back early on, maybe they snowball through second all the way to the end. I think it's a pretty solid idea, especially considering the CLG didn't know it was coming. You know, I would go for it. I think the thing most noticed for Selfless is that A, they did not put Sinatra on Zarya and play him on here on Kings Row, which they have been doing for the majority of time. And B, they actually did try going dive at the very end with Diva Winston, and they had Defran on Genji and Sinatra on Tracer. I actually thought it would have been switched with Sinatra. On the Genji, Defran actually played pretty well to close out the map.
Yeah, I felt like they put themselves in a weird position in terms of like how efficient they were, because I do think that they're obviously trying new things, you know, like we're not used to seeing the Defran Genji, we're not used to seeing Sinatra not play Zarya on this map. And I honestly think that strategy could have worked a little bit better, but they kind of like got afraid when it came to turning that choke, I guess, and they got off the cart, but then they wound up like burning the Bastion, like you mentioned. iShiny hit like a very nice PvE uprising 180 charge into the wall on the ulting Bastion, but you can't really anticipate plays like that. And then I think they burned the Orisa Supercharger, but that thing is super powerful, so I would have been more impressed if they had maybe like kept it for the next fight, but
The supercharger is super powerful. Thank you, Flame.
No, but it could be really good, especially on maps like King's Row, where they're very tight chokes, and you can have like at least 4 or 5 players alive.
No.
In that time, yeah, you can do a ton of damage.
Yeah, he like wasted on like him and a Lucio and like maybe a 7, like I don't know what the last hero was, maybe a 76 or something.
CLG offense coming out here, and their offense, well, nope, not going to be running a form surprise Hanzo Mikado, going back to Lucio, and offense looking very similar to what they're running in defense and points here. Notable exception, Waffle on the early Roadhog, and just looking for picks to start things out here, Hex.
Roadhog's always been very good on King's Row, offense or defense, the blind hooks that happen through the hotel, and just to get that very initiation kill. It's interesting they're running triple tank. Their only form of DPS is going to be hydration. That's largely probably going to be to try to shut down Defran, or at least make him uncomfortable.
Both teams trading out poke right now. Both teams relatively healthy, so the support's in the back of both doing a job of holding this up, but CLG now going a little bit more aggressive into the front, but Defran able to find Waffle early on, and Selfless just going right back into CLG. They get the early pickoff and they snowball it into a quick defense.
Yeah, Sinatroid just gets so quickly that pulse bomb up. He's been harassing the Reinhardt player in Shiny, makes him turn around and go for an ill-advised charge, and then he ends up getting cleaned up. So it's very difficult to deal with this Selfless team when they're running this composition, because do you look towards the skies and the backlines where Defran is just pew-pew-pewing you, or do you look at the Mosquito behind you who's throwing pulse bombs on your tanks every 30 seconds?
Generally, teams are more worried about Defran, but it opens up huge opportunities for Sinatra to do damage into the back. It is a 1-2 combo that Selfless has run very well when they've been playing well in recent tournaments. But here's the sound bear from CLG. They're going to use this to come in far more aggressively, and Michael 3D is caught out. Now for Selfless, do they use the Tac Visor to pull this back? The time to do it is going to be soon if they decide to, but the Earth Shatter connects. Eye Shiny knocking down 3, and that should clear the way for CLG.
Well, Iman still got something to say about it. He did take out the Ana early in the fight, which was Shake that could have opened it up for them. But as you mentioned, Shiny, his charges have been a little bit off, aside from the one he got on Bastion. These early charges that he had here have just missed a little bit. Makes up for it with a beautiful Earth Shatter, now in a decent position after taking second to roll through second point. This is generally where you see Gravitons come up. Miso is about 2 for 3 so far today.
This is a really good position to be in if you're CLG. They have plenty of momentum going forward, and while Selfless has resources, Graviton, Dragonblade, just a bit higher in damage potential as they go in through second. So if CLG is able to connect here, they might drain Alta Selfless while winning the fight. That said, Emong falls early on, and CLG could just win this on the nuts and bolts as Waffle and Miso storm the front.
Well, that's 2 tanks down too, and without those tanks that add the supplemental damage, or at least distracting the front line, the flankers and DPS are going to be that much less effective. Sinatra still messing around on the cart to try to stall it out a little bit, but him and Defran fall soon after you see those tanks. Very difficult to do their jobs when 2 of your frontline tanks fall, and they didn't have to use anything for that. CLG is rolling through second, and they've got game-changing ultimates.
This is very good momentum for CLG. If they can win this next fight, they will take second outright and have plenty of time left to finish this out. You see Selfless opening up with the whole hog. Miso lobs the Graviton in, gets 4 in, and hydration. Diving to the back line, the blade is out. Looking to fish this out, but the Nano pushing him back to Fran, ending up with 1 kill there and pushing back everyone else. So Selfless able to get through this Graviton and potentially hold on the second fight, and it looks like they will.
Yep, they get their DPS in there late towards the end. I don't know if I love opening up with the whole hog there. It was a really nice sound barrier by Doc to keep everyone alive, because once that whole hog dissipated, they threw in the Graviton, knowing that no one was going to get pushed away, but able to keep everyone super healthy with those shields. It was nice, and then they're able to pull it back mechanically on the back of their very talented DPS players.
Well, that was just a pivotal fight for Selfless to come back and win, because they were at the verge of getting snowballed right in the third. Now, yes, they are somewhat at a disadvantage in the next fight, but it's more winnable. They don't have to worry about the Graviton, and they have options here to just get an early pickoff and extend things out in second even more. Though Mikado able to stay alive in Defran's face. Defran's going to fall, and now with a 6v5 advantage, CLG can make up for lost time.
Well, the Ryan games do commence, and neither gets really anything out of that. The charge comes in from Shiny, but he eats a pulse bomb on the way in. Sinatra sticks it on his back. That's going to open things up for Kresnik to try to go in, but he gets slept too.
Emong fell there, but he dragged all of CLG way to the backline. It might not matter in the end as they pick up the next 3, but CLG was very scattered on this attack. That said, with 4 kills in their favor over the last moment, they should be able to just roll this through. whatever distraction that was caused by Emong, not enough to buy time for the rest of Selfless at the front.
Of note, they ended up using Nano there, and Sinatra's going to try to come in and stall both these tanks coming in here. Selfless is reckless on how they want to fight and where they want to fight, but this is a little iffy even for them.
That was a tortured engagement from Selfless, to say the least. They were down people to begin with, and the odds of actually delaying that, not great. All they did was power up CLG, give them valuable ultimate charge for the next fight, and you go into this next fight, they can open with Barrier Blade, which is an effective combo in the situation. So Selfless, they're gonna have to really clutch on getting a good nanovisor here, I think, to pull this back.
Well, Shiny eats another Pulse Bomb, but luckily Zarya saved him, so now Miso is super boosted up at 92%. Waffle falling to his counterpart, though, really hurts them. That's why you see this disengage immediately. They do not want to go in without a Roadhog.
Well, here's the other thing, too, is that with 2.5 minutes left, CLG has time on their side. They can wait and build up ultimates for a very good push. Now, it is looking more like an ultimate showdown that's on the menu here, but CLG definitely has a bit of an edge going in. Now the question is, how is Miso going to gauge here? He drops the Graviton right in, and Hydration comes in over the top. Early deflection, but the blade doesn't really ring true. Defran's able to take him out, but it's Waffle who gets most of the follow-through.
A beautiful shatter late there, too, to put Defran on the ground, who was maybe going to think about bringing that back. Again, they opened up with the defensive whole hog, and as soon as it goes away, they just Graviton it. I'm not certain why they're using it there, but this is great reaction from CLG. Selfless wants to fight all the time and make it scrappy and unfavorable to whoever they're fighting, but this great just disengages, and they're taking it on their own terms.
Nano Whole Hog coming into play here for CLG, just knocking Selfless back, knocking them off the payload. 5 versus 5. It's going to be down to Sinatra and Defran here to try and pull this back. They get Miso, and Sinatra lobs in the bomb, connects, takes that Waffle-tastic from downtown, and Selfless will buy themselves some very valuable time.
I think the target rate of pulse bombs onto Ice Shiny is about 110%. Every time Sinatra has a pulse bomb, it goes to Shiny, and that's just got to be frustrating. That one finds Paydirt a little over a minute to try to close out this map, otherwise Selfless will take a 2-1 lead in the series.
And this next fight going to be more by the book. Neither team with ultimates up here just yet, though they will have them up soon. Could come in late to the fight depending on how much is dragged out. Hydration and Miso are close. Selfless, though, they take the initiative. Whole Hog comes up and they push back on the CLG. Emong, though, gonna have to back out. Whole Hog is done. And now Hexus is looking like it will be the final fight. It's gonna get explosive soon.
Yeah, Iman yet again just opening up with the whole hog defensively. It seems to be a strategy that they like to use, and then if the defense does not retreat around the corner, then they will continue to push up, but it's just kind of a measuring stick of where do they want to fight, and if so, then we're already into it. So a lot of ults up for this defense. Going to be a bloodbath out there.
Nanoblade in progress, and Hydration dodges the shatter. Still, not able to find much here. Gets hit by the Bionade and taken down by Sinatra in the back. Selfless, still with a much better counter engage. They work around the Nanoblade, and now 2 kills away from finishing this out and getting the hold on last for Kings Row to win the map.
It does appear that will be the case. This Tracer's going to desperately try to get in and at least touch. Does not happen. Selfless holds on their home ground.
Final score. 2.
The interesting thing to me there too is that Selfless, not Selfless, but CLG was setting a quicker time up to last. They had plenty of time to go in through on last, but they weren't able to pull it in at the last moment. Guys, Rod, Flame, what are your thoughts?
CLG has 2 minutes to go to end King's Row, and they overextend towards left side spawn with, I believe, Miso dying early with full charge, and then Hydration taking a 1-on-2 against Defran and Michael 3D, who basically end up killing three players with CLG, and that really was their opportunity to finish the map right there. They get too aggressive, they get too hungry to try to get kills outside of spawn, and they end up paying for it, never really being able to regroup. I thought CLG had a pretty solid game, Miso playing well. I do think Hydration was a little bit absent in that map. Quiet, wasn't able to get the nano blades off that I think that they wanted to. And maybe Selfless made it a little bit harder than they needed to with not running Zarya and doing the 2-2-2.
Yeah, I guess to your point too, like when you were talking about when they were pushing the spawn, Emong had 2 hooks, I think. I mean, on second point, I felt like he kind of fed, like he was going on these really long flanks and he'd wind up maybe trying to get a pick, but for the most part, he was like kind of a distraction. But on last point, he wound up, I think, killing Waffle-tastic twice. And then one time when they were going for that spawn push, Shake was actually in the back, and he hooked Shake, but they knew he was there because they like scouted him before that. So I'm surprised that they even let that happen, and they just didn't have Shake for that last push where they nanoed the Roadhog. At the same time too, like they definitely got a little too overzealous because they wound up like popping sound barrier and nano boost and a whole hog into like 3 people that were like literally walking out the spawn door. So I think if they had taken it a little bit slower and maybe like checked their corners, I think they definitely could have finished it with like 2 or 2.5 minutes left.
Yeah, CLG should be feeling pretty good about the game because, as you're playing Hex, they were using their ults better, at least in my opinion. Yeah, when you have Emong using Roadhog ult early on, it's a pretty solid option to use Zarya right after. They got pretty decent frags from most of the Zarya ults, maybe not the very first one in the middle of second point, but CLG had a better ult conservation game than Selfless.
Well, there's one thing I would probably bring the question for CLG there, and I'm just curious whether you think it was more Selfless handling it well, or CLG just having somewhat of a messed up initiation, is that Dragon Blade seemed to be a touchy subject all throughout King's Row, where Hydration really wasn't getting what you would expect to get from a Dragon Blade, or certainly Nano Blade in some of these situations. Was that just Selfless really prioritizing taking him down, or did Hydration somewhat mess those fights up?
They counter it with a nano visor, I think, like every single time. And it's really hard, I think, if you get bad spacing or if Dax there with a left click, or a boop rather, suddenly you just become like this free kill for the 76. So I think if they just played around it really well, they anticipated it. I guess the ult economy thing, you kind of expect Selfless to kind of throw away ults. I think that that's like part of their repertoire. So I think CLG just needed to... They should have been winning the ult economy game in general, but they needed to capitalize a little bit more on it and be a little bit more clean about it. But as far as like Genji Blades, it's whatever.
Yeah, and related, it's not surprising that we're going to another control map. Probably mostly because Hydration can play Genji again, and because they can bring out the Pharah Mercy. That's where they've had the most success against Selfless so far in the series.
Well, not only have they had the most success against Selfless with a Pharah Mercy combo, but Selfless in general hasn't really dealt with Pharahs all that well, and now you're into a patch where their main weapon against Sin Soldier is doing less damage. Do you think that if this first round works out well, Rod, they should stick with the Pharah, perhaps throughout the rest of the series?
I mean, I see them sticking with the Pharah Mercy throughout the rest of this map, even if they lose first round. But I think it would definitely give them a lot of confidence if they are able to take this to the start.
Alright, so we are into the first fight right now, and CLG taking a bit slow. Hydration floating around the corners, but the engage comes in, and now goes in a little bit deeper. Nothing too crazy in the engage, but finds his way to the back, but not able to finish off the supports as Defran is his own method of anti-air. Goes on a rampage, 3 kills from Defran to open this out.
I mean, the engage comes in, but maybe it wasn't the best idea to engage right into that, because they put their ground forces right in there without really getting the requisite damage you need early on from the combo. You would like to get those rockets in, call a big chunk of damage boosted rockets, and then engage, and so you're already at the advantage. Engaging like that does not seem like the best of ideas, but this can be a difficult map, even for Pharah Mercy. There is a ceiling, there is a place these tanks can hide.
Pulse Bomb comes in from Defran, does not connect, devoured by Miso to start this out. Meanwhile, Waffle, his Pulse Bomb connects early on for a quick 6v5 setup for CLG. Still even here on the point though, Defran. Hot pursuit of the Mercy. Shake going the fall. And Selfless just mechanically outplaying here as Kresnik comes to town.
You don't often think of Reinhardt as the Pharah Mercy combo, but that's exactly what Kresnik was right there. And his shield is still been alive. He's done a great job conserving it. It's been cracked and beaten up most of the time, but he's somehow kept it alive, been able to eat some of these rockets, keep his team up. Defran will give Shiny a parting gift as they remain holding on to the point.
To some extent, I'm almost okay with that, CLG. Not that Pulse Bomb is something you super conserve, but they were already retreating and respawning anyways. Right. This is only a minor delay for not having to worry about Defran being in a corner with a Pulse Bomb, so... Actually, I think that's fine for CLG. That said, 64% if they're gonna retake it, the time is now. They lose Mikado early on. Defran doesn't need the Pulse Bomb to assassinate supports. Already 2 kills for him in the back, but the engage from CLG is in, and Waffle is doing his own work into the back line as CLG tries to evict the last remaining members of Selfless from this point, but Defran, still a threat!
I was gonna say, they can res this if they need to, and perhaps that res should have come out a little bit earlier. You don't really want to keep fighting a scrappy fight against this team. It's one of the things that they excel at, along with the people waiting in the upper bracket. And I think Shake needed to res that early on. You can't take a gamble there when that's almost your last fight.
Well, the real problem here is that this is very likely to end in a big bang. Sinatra coming in with the Graviton, Defran holding on to the pulse, and Sinatra just gonna drop this casually. Defran right there, and no, it's not quite the big bang he's looking for, and yet, this mechanically, Defran coming in, laying clip after clip of pulse ammo in. Shake certainly about to fall here, and Selfless going to take this.
Selfless has evolved a little bit, but I mean, mostly Sinatra picking up this Zarya that's been insane, and then able to put Defran onto any hit scan and let him get the performance that he got there.
Score 1.
Huh, they figured out Fair Mercy, at least for that stage.
I mean, apparently the answer to Fair Mercy is just have Defran kill everything.
CLG had an opening, I think, when they hit that pulse bomb on Sinatra. They were actually really close to killing Emong too, but then Hydration went for like this crazy barrage into like 5 people and got sleep darted charged. I think if he just played it a little bit slower, they actually would have capped that or at least won that engagement, but again, I think CLG is getting a little too excited with their ultimates.
One thing that's worth asking here, Rod, is that are they at the point where they have to go to perhaps a McCree or Roadhog here to try and apply more pressure to Defran, who really has been able to do whatever he wants and winning against Waffletastic consistently?
No, they don't really have long-range hit scan. Defran should not be killing straight at Mercy and Farah in the first team fight. I mean, this is their most success they've had, CLG, thus far, and might be also Hydration's best hero. I'm going to say they stay on this.
Alright, well, we're going to be watching Defran again as he is in hot pursuit of Shake and just using the terrain to make himself an anti-air tracer in a sense, but this time he's going to get thrown off a bit. Hydration will survive, but Mikado in the worst position right now under hot pursuit, but Waffle able to survive and protect him at the last moment. So Defran has been taken down even as CLG loses first control of the point.
This is one of the most difficult maps to run Pharmacy, or one of the most difficult stages anyway, because you see Kresnik can just completely block off that door with the shield. The shield will finally crack. Now would be the time to go in, but they can just move to the other side of the point and just out-rotate and out-maneuver the combo.
Sinatra show in progress here once more, fully charged up, really being the muscle for Selfless in that particular fight, and CLG down 24% already. Still plenty of time to come back, but given that they are facing elimination if they lose Nepal, that is cold comfort indeed.
I really like that Emong is on the Diva too, because it's another great just option to completely shut out the Pharmacy. As soon as that shield cracks, Defense Matrix will be up. You're getting 0 damage out of these rockets. A Sound Barrier comes down to initiate the fight.
Barrage to open things up here from Hydration, finds Michael 3D early on. 65 for CLG, and we'll see what they do here, given that Selfless's healing has been rather hurt. Resurrection in from Shake, brings up Eyeshiny, and though it's not clean, CLG certainly taking this fight.
They will put the self-destruct on the point, which is always great, buys at least a couple of seconds, and they will finally flip it back. Had to use nearly everything. Resurrection's going to be out of the mix now as well, so this is a better position to be in, of course. When you're running the Pharmacy, you're going to get all these free rockets over top, and more importantly, the tanks are not in the position they want to be in. They want to hide in the hut, and now you're denying them that.
Well, the other thing, too, is that Farah can really be a pain as you're initiating here once you have control of the point. So this is where CLG, just beyond the obvious, does not want to lose this here in Hydration. Pokes people down as they come in and finishes them off as they try and get underneath. It's a very clean fight here for CLG, and they're in a great position right now.
They do get Shake somewhere out of that, which is a little bit interesting. I mean, now he's dead and they're not going to be able to charge up the Resurrection. Should probably get there in the midst of the next fight, though, as they near about 40%. We'll see if they want to rotate to the same side. Yeah, they just want to get their tanks in towards the bottom, trying to get both shielded tanks to cover for each other. But they lose both supports on the way in. This fight's done.
The supports didn't have a prayer there. Hydration was just casually throwing rockets in on them, signaled to his Winston to dive in and finish it off, and that was that. Dak dying pretty much immediately, Zarya's shield or no, and these engages from Selfless have been suspect. They really, at the very least, I'd like to see them come in from a different angle. Anything at this point, they're giving Hydration the easiest shots ever on both Dak and Michael 3D.
Well, here's the thing, is you can get that angle early on when it's the first fight. That's what you see a lot of tank heavy compositions do. They fight down there instead of going the high ground. Once the team is established with the Pharmacy, you have to take this angle, which I'm glad that they're finally switching it up. The Destruct comes over the top, though, gets nothing.
Well, it does force them off of the position that they're in. Hydration sees his opportunity, drops a barrage, gets mostly mitigated here by Emong. And Emong should get demeched here. Hammer, though, coming down from Kresnik. does set up for 2 kills, so Selfless able to come back in, but Shake is there at the resurrection. Hydration back into the fight, and Waffle drops a boom. Fight still very much in contest, but CLG, after the res, able to compete, but Sinatra coming right back in. And Selfless, Hacks, is going to retake this with a little bit of progress to spare.
Yeah, they've had Graviton post-resurrection a couple times, which is nice. They were able to deal with both parts of that combo, then the meaty composition they have on the ground, going to allow them to clean up that fight. Defran will have Tactical Visor ready here, a great counter ultimate to just any sort of combo in the air, which I imagine is what they're going to be doing. I think he's going to probably stick with his tanks and just try to find an angle on this combination.
Selfless right now doing what they usually do here on the village and just hiding inside the building. They're using terrain as their own anti-air, but Hydration starting to come in. Here comes the Fran though. Nano Boost is out, Tac Visor is in, and he's going to take down Ice Shiny with authority. That's going to be mostly it, but now with no Ice Shiny, this is a much more difficult nut to crack here for CLG. They find Michael 3D though, and it is very back and forth.
Well, Self-Destruct will come on the point, making sure that it is vacated momentarily, and that is all that they need. And it's a great way to close out a map. Emon dropping the Self-Destruct, everyone's got to run.
0.
CLG now facing elimination. One more round on Nepal is all that separates them from their fate. Guys, what can we expect going in here to Sanctum?
Well, it is Sanctum, so triple tank isn't too surprising. Coming out from CLG, the Fire Mercy doesn't work. I mean, they had a really good opportunity to take that round there.
Justice and suspense.
I think a lot of it was their positioning and just like the way that they played around res. Like I think you shouldn't use res in fights where you're like definitely going to lose or you're already really heavily losing because it's just risky. And then you saw Sinatra. His Gravitons have been a lot better today than they were, I think, last week when we started this tournament. But it's definitely paying off for them, I think, him saving it for these reses.
CLG coming back in, and this is about as standard as Nepal gets, but Defran is coming out on the flank, so he's not with the rest of his team trying to win the shield battle. This is where the flank has to hit pay dirt early on, or you look at the rest of Selfless, they're going to lose the shield battle and end up losing the fight, but the flank is successful. He finds Waffle from the back, and it forces CLG to dive in to try and equalize out, but does not seem to be effective here.
Mechs can be cumbersome. He literally just walked off the edge. Literally just walked into searching for the gold, I suppose. You're right, that early kill was nice. By all means, they probably should have won that shield battle because they had the Diva in the mix too to be able to eat a lot of that incoming damage. Did not happen. A literal misstep may have cost them that fight.
Well, they were on a time limit there where they had to win the shield battle before Defran eventually grabbed someone, and unfortunately for them, they lost Waffle early. And now for CLG, they're stuck having to come back in. That said, the early hook opens the way. Now a 6v5 opportunity, and it's Selfless that has to back out and buy time, but it's a nice disengage from Selfless here. Hex, they're able to fully back out, and they should be able to come back in 6v6.
Yeah, they're going to put some pressure on the point there, which I like. I like that they rotated a few people over there. The boost does come in onto Kresnik, who just fire strikes Shiny. Oh, to death. A boop onto Kresnik is going to open that up for the Tactical Visor, and now both supports down. Very close, about 3v4, 3v3 right now.
And yet, it's Selfless maintaining control, as I desperately hope that the ice cream truck outside is not coming over on stream. I don't think it is, but...
Ah, dude, just go. I'll solo cast. Go get a Choco Taco.
Choco Taco, that is tempting. It is that time of year. In any case, Selfless holding firm. 50% is all that separates them from getting a rematch with YIKES. CLG, time running out on them here. They might be able to initiate this with a barrier, but they're going to give... Oh no, what an Earth Shatter! Kresnik says absolutely not to that possibility. Another fight in the bag for Selfless.
Looked like he had shield up, just the briefest of windows, and he hits that. That's insanity. Now it's down to the last fight. So Shiny's going to have to pull his best Kresnik right here because it's one of the only big ultimates that they have. They can sound barrier into this too because they're not going to get free entry into this doorway based on where Selfless is positioning. Oh my god, you can't lose Waffle like that.
Sinatra just waiting to throw this grab in. Probably doesn't even care if it gets eaten because of Sinatra's grabs, but Selfless being highly aggressive and the grab is eaten, of course. Like I said though, Sinatra doesn't necessarily care in the final part here. He's pretty accustomed to this. However, this fight is going to go the way of Selfless. The last bit of damage coming in from Sinatra into the back line. We are in the overtime, and now will CLG pull a miracle? They are on the verge of being eliminated. They must get on this point. Waffle sacrifices his body to go right in. The Earthshatter connects on the hydration, and that should be it. GGs are called. Although, as GGs are being called, they're coming back in. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if...
I
Is
mean,
it BM if they bring this back? It's unlikely that they bring this back.
I
If
mean,
it was OGN, I think they would already just be calling the game here regardless, because...
yeah, they would have got DQ'd, I think.
Yeah, well... What? Waffle at the very end. Alright, so Selfless officially finishing out Nepal here, and they will get the rematch with YIKES, who will be going into the grand finals with a 1-game advantage.